What if I told you that somewhere in a climate-controlled storage facility in Missouri, there sits an ordinary-looking wooden wine box that has been blamed for nightmares, hair loss, mysterious illnesses, and even death? What if I told you that this box allegedly contains something so malevolent that its previous owners have begged, literally begged, people to never ever open it? This is the story of the Dybbuk Box, arguably the most infamous haunted object in modern paranormal history. It's a tale that begins in the aftermath of one of humanity's darkest chapters and wins its way through decades of terror, mystery, and questions that remain unanswered to this day. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this simple wooden box has become the subject of Hollywood movies, countless paranormal investigations, and heated debates between believers and skeptics worldwide. Our story begins in the autumn of 2001, in the quiet coastal city of Portland, Oregon. Kevin Mannis, a 35-year-old antique dealer and furniture refinisher, was making his regular rounds through estate sales, searching for unique pieces to add to his inventory. Kevin had been in the business for over a decade, and he prided himself on having an eye for items with character, pieces that told a story. He was a practical man, someone who dealt in facts, craftsmanship, and the tangible history that antiques represented. On a particularly gray September morning, the kind that Portland is famous for, Kevin found himself at an estate sale in the affluent Laurelhurst neighborhood. The Victorian house belonged to Havilah Glazer, a 103-year-old Holocaust survivor who had recently passed away peacefully in her sleep. Her granddaughter, Sarah Glazer Cohen, was overseeing the sale of her grandmother's possessions, a lifetime's worth of memories accumulated over more than a century of living through some of history's most turbulent times. Kevin had been drawn to the sale by an advertisement mentioning European antiques in Judaica. As someone who appreciated both craftsmanship and historical significance, he was immediately intrigued by the possibility of finding something special. The house itself was a treasure trove, filled with handcrafted furniture that had survived wars and migrations, vintage textiles with intricate patterns, and artifacts that spoke of a life lived across continents and through unimaginable hardship. The walls were lined with black and white photographs showing generations of family members, some dating back to the early 1900s. There were menorahs of different sizes and ages, books written in Hebrew and Yiddish, and furniture that bore the distinctive marks of European craftsmanship. Each item seemed to carry its own weight of history, its own silent testimony to survival and perseverance. As Kevin browsed through the items, carefully examining the quality and provenance of various pieces, his attention was captured by a simple wooden wine box sitting somewhat apart from the other items on a small table near the back of the room. It wasn't particularly ornate, just a plain wooden box about the size of a small briefcase, with brass hinges that had developed a greenish patina over time, and a brass nameplate that was too tarnished to read clearly. But something about it seemed to call to him. Maybe it was the craftsmanship, which appeared to be of excellent quality despite its simple design. Maybe it was the way it seemed to sit apart from everything else, as if it had been deliberately separated from the other items for sale. Or maybe it was simply the antique dealer's instinct that told him this was something worth investigating further. When Kevin approached Sarah to inquire about the box, her reaction was immediate and startling. The color drained from her face, and she stepped back as if he had mentioned something dangerous or forbidden. Her eyes darted nervously between Kevin and the box, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight of genuine fear and desperation that caught him completely off guard. "Please," Sarah said, her hands visibly shaking as she gestured toward the box. "Please don't buy that box. My grandmother said it should never be opened. She called it. She said it was cursed. She made me promise to never let anyone Jewish buy it, and honestly, I don't think anyone should buy it at all." Kevin, like many rational adults in the 21st century, didn't believe in curses, supernatural entities, or ancient folk magic. He was a businessman, a pragmatist who dealt in the tangible world of antiques and restoration. His expertise lay in recognizing quality craftsmanship, understanding historical periods, and evaluating the market value of vintage items. The supernatural simply wasn't part of his worldview. The box was well made, appeared to be genuinely vintage, and would fit perfectly in his shop's inventory. Despite Sarah's obvious distress and increasingly desperate tone, he pressed her for more information about its history and origins. He was curious now, not about any alleged curse, but about the story behind such an emotional reaction. Sarah reluctantly shared what little she knew of her grandmother's complex and tragic history. Havela Glazer had been born in a small village outside Krakow, Poland, in 1898. She had lived through both world wars, but it was the second that had fundamentally altered the trajectory of her entire family line. She had survived the horrors of the Holocaust, enduring years in concentration camps, and losing virtually her entire extended family, parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles, to the systematic murder that claimed 6 million Jewish lives. After the war ended, Havela had managed to immigrate to the United States as part of the Displaced Persons Program, carrying with her only a few precious possessions that had somehow survived the chaos and destruction. Among these treasured items was this wooden box, which had apparently been in her family for generations before the war. "She kept it in her sewing room for as long as I can remember," Sarah explained, wrapping her arms around herself as if suddenly cold. "But she would never let anyone touch it, not even family members. She said it contained a Dybbuk, an evil spirit from our folklore. She claimed her own grandmother had given it to her just before everything happened to our family in Poland." This revelation only made Kevin more intrigued from a historical perspective, though he remained skeptical about any supernatural elements. Here was an object with genuine provenance, a piece that had survived one of history's greatest tragedies and carried with it the weight of authentic family history.